Jnana Shalakaya Chakshu Namanita Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master is divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada kindly opened my darkened eyes. With the torchlight of knowledge, I offer my humble obeisances to his lotus feet. Jai Prabhupada. So we just opened the random verse. As a new tradition, every time a new person comes, we let him pick a new random verse. Georgie helped us in this attempt. And maybe we can do that like in a circle after everyone can pick up a random verse. We can do it. Triple tradition. Yeah. And yeah, like kind of what hits my eyes and mind immediately in this verse is like how many times Prabhupada stresses this point. Like there is no such thing as becoming without any desires. That's not the purpose of spiritual life, to become a rock, to become something inanimate, right? Many processes of yoga, they proclaim that you just focus on nothing, you become nothing, emerge into nothing, do nothing, think nothing, it's nothing, not shunya. This is not actual meditation. Meditation is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, I think it's 11th or 12th canto, Tadgatena Manasa Pashanti Sham Yogina. That the yogis, they meditate on the super soul within the heart. Sometimes it seems like they meditate on nothing, but actually they meditate on something. Not something, but someone. They meditate on Krishna. And that's why they're able to withdraw the senses, and it seems that they're doing nothing and they're very still and calm. Actually, they are in activity, but in the spiritual world. The screen is a bit here.
But Krishna, we lost power.
Oh, wow.
Chase. Yeah, maybe he disconnected because he was cooking there. That's fine. He can watch the rebroadcast.
No, I'm here.
Pleasure to have you all here. Either you watch it live or you watch the rebroadcast on YouTube on the Bhakti Yoga Discussion channel. Subscribe, like, and share. So, yeah, this is not the purpose to be desirous, because it's not possible. The soul, this is like the function of the soul. Just like the soul is, the fire is warm and shed light. Sun is illuminating, sugar is sweet, chili is pungent. Indians are restless. Just kidding. Any Indians watch that?
Can you hear?
So yeah, the internal constitutional position of the spirit soul is to desire. But the question is, what do we desire? Are we desiring something that will elevate us, degrade us, or keep us in the same level of consciousness? So Prabhupada promotes desire. You desire for Krishna. Don't desire just for yourself, but desire for Krishna, and then your desire is purified, and your desire is source of liberation. There's a nice example of in the Chaitanya Charitamrita how the devotee he does even something seemingly selfish for the desire of Krishna or Lord Chaitanya. There was a devotee, I forgot his name, Mukunda Datta or no, someone else. He was massaging Lord Chaitanya's feet after he would take lunch to give him pleasure. And Lord Chaitanya one day he took so much prasadam that he collapsed at the threshold to his ashram, and everyone were scared to step over. It's a great offense to step over a devotee or devotional paraphernalia. That's why we don't put books on the floor and even flowers, like flowers, worship, offered flowers. It's not irregular. It's usually devotees, they tend not to step over them. So none of the devotees have stepped over Lord Chaitanya because they didn't went in the ashram. But then this one devotee, he came and his service was to massage his feet. So what he would do, he has to go in. So he stepped over Lord Chaitanya and he was massaging him, but he couldn't go out. And why he couldn't go out, Lord Chaitanya, in this interaction, it's explained there that when he woke up, Lord Chaitanya was astonished that, oh, you're still here and you're massaging me. Why didn't go and take your lunch? You didn't take your lunch because it's already late. And this devotee, he explained to him, for my personal sense gratification, I'm not gonna step over you. But for yours, for the glorification of the Lord, I will step over you. And so there are many such examples in Prabhupada's pastimes too. Jadharani, the painter that painted many of these pictures around us, once she wanted to climb on Prabhupada's bed to measure something there in the picture, and she asked Prabhupada, can I step on your bed? Because I mean, it's kind of like offensive, right? Stepping on someone's bed. And Prabhupada said, for Krishna's service, you can step on my head. I don't care. So of course we should not take advantage, but that's the principle, that to serve Krishna is we can transgress certain rules and regulations like that. That's all I have to say about this. If any one of you like to share something about it, or we can open another verse and someone else can read it.
Can you hear me, Prabhu?
Yes, George, Prabhu.
Okay. I no, this is Chase.
Oh, sorry, Chase, you back.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I've been here the whole time. I apologize. I had started cooking, unfortunately at the same time the service started.
So how did you like the reading?
I loved it. I wanna
you
do
feel
it again.
It was specifically for you? How did you connect that? Because we opened it randomly thinking, well, maybe Krishna and Prabhupada would like to say something to you personally.
It's funny because I connected it to give me 1 second. I opened my Gita up randomly and it said, the personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work and devotion are both good in liberation. But of the two, work and devotional service is better than the renunciation of work. So it kind of flows with the same thing. Don't just give up something because you think it will give you spiritual piety.
Interesting. If you like, you can share the purport, what Prabhupada reads there in the purport with us, if you like.
Yes, sir. Fruit of activities, Prabhupada says, fruit of activities seeking sense gratification are a cause for material bondage. As long as one is engaged in activities aimed at improving the standard of bodily condition, one is sure to transmigrate to different types of bodies, whereas continuing material bondage perpetually, thereby continuing material bondage perpetually. I apologize. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, verse 4 to 6, confirms this as the following. People are mad after sense gratification, and they do not know that this present body, which is full of miseries, is a result of one's fruit of activities in the past. Although this body is temporary, it is always giving one trouble in many ways. Therefore, to act for sense gratification is not good. One is considered to be a failure in his life as long as he makes no inquiry about his real identity. As long as he does not know his real identity, he has to work for fruit of results for sense gratification. And as long as one is engrossed in the consciousness of sense gratification, one has to transmigrate from body to another. Although the mind may be engrossed in fruit of activities and influenced by ignorance, one must develop a love for devotional service to Vyasadeva. Only then can one have the opportunity to give out the bondage or get out of the bondage of material existence. Thereby, jhana, or knowledge, that one is not the material body but spirit soul, is not sufficient for liberation. One who has to act in the status of spirit soul. Otherwise, there is no escape from material bondage. Action in Krishna consciousness is not, however, action on the fruitive platform. Activities performed in full knowledge strengthen one's advancement in real knowledge. Without Krishna consciousness, mere renunciation of fruitive activities does not actually purify the heart of a conditioned soul. As long as the heart is not purified, one has to work on the fruitive platform. But action in Krishna consciousness automatically helps one escape the results of fruitive action so that one need not descend on the material platform. Therefore, action in Krishna consciousness is always superior to renunciation, which always entails a risk of falling. Renunciation without Krishna consciousness.
Riskiness.
Say again?
Experiencing the riskiness of the material activities,
Yeah.
the air or the cold air, wherever you're from. Please, sorry, I interrupted.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Renunciation without Krishna consciousness is incomplete, as performed by Srila Rupa Goswami and his Bhakti Rasamriti Sindhu.
That's what
When
we
persons eager.
Bhakti
Say again?
Rasamrita, that's the nectar of devotion. We usually read it in the evenings. If we'll have time, maybe we read some more of that after. Yeah, please continue.
That's the book that it's quoting from?
Yes, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, nectar of devotion.
Okay. See, I didn't even know that. Thank you. When persons eager to achieve liberation renounce things related to the Supreme Personality Godhead, thinking them to be material, their renunciation is called incomplete.
Would you be able to read that again? The speaker was glitching.
I apologize. When persons eager to achieve liberation renounce things related to the Supreme Personality Godhead, thinking them to be material, their renunciation is called incomplete.
Yeah, it's so nice because, I mean, we're trying to, especially now, like with this quarantine and like the virus, everyone is trying to keep it clean and pure and, you know, renouncing. But, you know, it's gone. It's all gone. You know, you're going to get diseased. You're going to get diseased. If not, I think we spoke about it over the phone. That everything is up to, of course, we have to be careful, but we should not forget that like, we cannot renounce our health if it's not up to us, really.
Yeah, or I suppose it would be like renouncing eating a healthy meal, or eating a nice meal, renouncing sweets, you know. But if it's prashadam,
Keith here is on the sweet fast.
I know.
He's losing it.
Yeah. If you want to renounce sweets,
Yes.
but that's if you renounce the sweets that are prashadam, then it's incomplete, right? Yeah.
Yeah, if Krishna brings you sweets, and you don't take the sweets.
Yeah.
Too bad for you, more for us. How are you, George? What's going there for you? How is Saraswati, Danielle?
Hi, Krishna.
Oh, Danielle, hi, Krishna.
We're engaged in an epic diaper battle. But it's good. She has her harness. Just talking about disease and suffering. So our baby is 4 months old and has hip dysplasia. So every night we have to strap her into a harness for about 12 hours. And this is better actually, because for many weeks she was in a harness for 23 hours a day. So yeah, so it doesn't just start when you're like 50, you know, like it can happen immediately. It can happen before you're even born. I guess what's coming up for me in this moment.
Yeah, you're experiencing how human life is so fragile from day one pretty much. We don't realize how we made out of glass pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it's something.
If I play this drum for too long, my fingers, they just split open. I have like cuts.
It's like very little that actually holds us together. Like we were talking about this morning. We're just like a little bag of skin. Like a little bag of skin. Yeah. This is her nighttime hug. Hey, Krishna.
This is our friend Chase from Kentucky.
Hi, Krishna, Daniel.
This is his first session, and we inspired by him to read randomly from the Bhagavad Gita tonight and see what holds for what Krishna and Prabhupada wants to transmit to us. Would you like to try, Danielle, to open the Bhagavad Gita randomly and see what?
Yes. Yes. Should I use my copy? Or should you use your copy?
Yeah, you can use your copy. And we're going to tell you stop.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to go get it. I got it right here. Hold on.
Up to something. New heat here.
Have you ever seen a copy like this?
Okay. Yeah. It's a nice picture. I like the realistic picture.
Okay, who tells me to stop? Who's telling me now?
Keith, I'll tell you stop.
Okay, I'm going.
Now.
All right. Yoga
Wait, what
Yukto.
chapter are we
Oh,
in?
I'm sorry. Chapter 5, text 7. Yuga Yukto Visuddhahatma Vijatatma Jit Indriya Sarva Hutatma Kuran Api Nilipyate. Translation. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. One who is one who is on the path of liberation by Krishna consciousness is very dear to every living being, and every living being is dear to him. This is due to his Krishna consciousness. Such a person cannot think of any living being as separate from Krishna, just as the leaves and branches of a tree are not separate from the tree. He knows very well that by pouring water on the root of the tree, the water will be distributed to all the leaves and branches, or by supplying food to the stomach, the energy is automatically distributed throughout the body. Because one who works in Krishna consciousness is servant to all, he is very dear to everyone. And because everyone is satisfied by his work, he is pure in consciousness. Because he is pure in consciousness, his mind is completely controlled. And because his mind is controlled, his senses are also controlled. Because his mind is always fixed on Krishna, there is no chance of his being deviated from Krishna. Nor is there a chance that he will engage his senses in matters other than the service of the Lord. He does not like to hear anything except topics relating to Krishna. He does not like to eat anything which is not offered to Krishna. And he does not wish to go anywhere if Krishna is not involved. Therefore, his senses are controlled. A man of controlled senses cannot be offensive to anyone. One may ask, why then was Arjuna offensive in battle to others? Wasn't he in Krishna consciousness? Arjuna was only superficially offensive because, as he had already been explained in the second chapter, all the assembled persons on the battlefield would continue to live individually, as the soul cannot be slain. So spiritually, no one would be killed in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Only their dresses were changed by the order of Krishna, who was personally present. Therefore, Arjuna, while fighting on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, was not really fighting at all. He was simply carrying out the orders of Krishna in full Krishna consciousness. Such a person is never entangled in the reactions of work.
Jai.
Jai.
Yeah. Prabhupada said so many times Krishna there. I mean, Prabhupada says many times Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, but some verses in the purports, Prabhupada is really like Krishna, 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 Krishna. There's this funny memory. I don't know if you've seen it with Brahmananda Prabhu. He sits next to Prabhupada and he just listens to how Prabhupada is saying Krishna, 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 Krishna. And at some point, Brahmananda gets into like a trance. Like he is like, his head is spinning. And then Prabhupada stops saying Krishna and Brahmananda just losing it. And he's like almost like falling down on the, like on his back. And like, whoa, and he shouted like, whoa. And Prabhupada looked at him, never do this again. He's a big guy. Brahmananda, he was a very big devotee, so you know, we had an earthquake there. Yeah. But yeah, but did you pick it up? How Prabhupada in all these verses we read, he's like pointing this. Like for me, it was highlighted sort of like how the main conclusion, like one of the main conclusions of the verses, how everything is related to everyone is in Krishna, everyone is part of Krishna, like the analogy of the stomach or the parts and parcels. And it's like we open all these random verses and Prabhupada speaks like the same constructive realization that he's trying to deliver to us. I find it beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Hari. Okay, who is next? Bhakti Keith. And Chase, you can say stop to Bhakti Keith.
Hold on. I'll let you know when I'm starting. Go.
Stop. We said stop. Second chapter again? Oh,
Yeah.
nice. My favorite.
People will always speak of your infamy. And for one who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. Purport. Both as friend and philosopher to Arjuna, Lord Krishna now gives his final judgment regarding Arjuna's refusal to fight. The Lord says, Arjuna, you are a fool. No. The Lord says, Arjuna, if he does say that to him one way, doesn't he?
Yeah, before.
Yeah, he calls him a fool. Yeah. Arjuna, if you leave the battlefield, people will call you a coward even before your actual flight. If you think that people may call you bad names, but that you will save your life by fleeing the battlefield, then my advice is that you'd better to die in the battle. For a respectable man like you, ill fame is worse than death. So you should not flee for fear of your life. Better to die in battle. That will save you from the ill fame of misusing my friendship and from losing your prestige in society. So the final judgment of the Lord was for Arjuna to die in the battle and not withdraw.
I told you to stop on a verse that I had already pulled up.
Okay, so you can be next. So what is your report to Keith? Please share us your...
Who, me?
Come on. You know something's going on in your heart.
My head, anyway. That's what the samurais used to do. I was mentioning that.
Yeah,
today,
you spoke about it in the morning. Wow, what a coincidence.
Yeah, if they dishonored their teacher or dishonored somehow, then they would do this little ceremony and slice their stomach open.
Harakuki? How does it called? Harakaki?
Something like that. Some K's in there.
Seppuku.
How?
Is it called seppuku? Seppuku?
Sapaka.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a samurai here.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't know.
I'm just a bald guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So they were like, that's one thing that they would consider the dishonor is they would have their little thing up here, their lock of hair.
Like a shika.
Same back as when in Arjuna, and then you see the pictures, they have the thing there. And if somebody cut it off, then that would be dishonor, right? So that would be
I'll be pretty pissed if someone takes my shika.
If anybody cuts your hair off, then just kill yourself on spot, pretty much, you know.
Ooh, that's great.
Yeah. So but also I'm getting from it that Dear Govinda was talking the other day about Maricha. He's from the Ramayana.
Yeah, I have a quote already prepared about this. Maricha went to Mr. Sita.
Yeah, he was like a magician or warlock for Ravana. And
Shapeshifter.
Shapeshifter. Yeah, that was his specific field of magicianism. And so Ravana wanted him to trick Ram so he could steal Sita. So he went and Ravana was there, and he was trying to convince him to do it, but Maricha was afraid of Ram and he didn't want to go. So Ravana started getting really pissed off, and he was just like, saying, go, and he said, I don't want to, and he just puts his hand on his sword and he's just ready to kill him on the spot, right? His master. And then he says he goes and does it, and of course Ram just shoots him with an arrow.
Ram kills him?
Maricha. Well, I mean, in the movie it says it. I don't know if it's 100% alive. Yeah, he shoots him, and then so that's what Dear Govinda was saying. Better to die by Ram than by Ravana, because if he died by Ram, he get purified. So I don't know. It seemed like a bad thing. He's gonna go and try to trick Ram, but because he got killed by him, it was actually good for him because he got purified by it. Whereas if it was just killed by Ravana, he just go straight to hell, right? Or because he's an evil person. So yeah.
I believe those were some of Prabhupada's last words in a discussion. I think that he said better to die by Ram than Ravana.
Oh yeah.
He talking about walks.
Yeah.
About how the walks were going to kill him, but also not taking the walks were going to kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to go on Prabhupada wanted to go on a japa walk when he was very, very ill.
You read the quote already. Oh my God. It's a secret.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to steal your thunder.
Okay, I can read it over again. Yeah, it's Prabhupada. He wanted to go on the parikram. In fact, I'm going to share something that not many devotees know, because I heard it firsthand from a person that was there. And when Prabhupada wanted to go on the parikram, it wasn't just actually a japa walk. It was a big walk.
Hill.
That's like a little. You're saying, Chase?
It was around Govardhan Hill.
Even more. It's a surprise. I'm keeping it confidential. So you all there on Thursday with me and Bhakti Keith and here Govinda too. And one of his servants, he made this weird comment like, Prabhupada, you want a suicide? What's going on with you? And yeah, Prabhupada, he kind of like, and staying here is a suicide too. We can discuss it on Thursday, and there are many, many things around it. But yeah, I really appreciate you bringing it up, because it's Ramanavami and the whole Kshatriya thing, like why the world is in such a state, which it is now, is that because there are no leaders. Prabhupada says it's a dense overpopulation of Shudras and Vaishyas, of businessman class and worker class. There are practically no politicians, and there are no Brahmanas. There are no educated people who lead society. The educated people too, they're Shudras. They're paid to do their job, and if they propose something actually which gives benefit or whatever to the world, there's no money for it, so they don't propose it. And the politicians, they're to usurp the post and get some money and admiration for some time, and then they go, right? 4 years, 8 years, how much, even practically speaking, how much really work you can accomplish in 8 years. But why actually the monarchy was for lifetime, not to facilitate the king's enjoyment, no, but so he can actually do something. It takes a lifetime to build a family, right? What to speak to build society, to build country, in several lifetimes. So yeah, that's why the successor of the king will continue, and the successor will be elected by the king, so he can continue the upkeep of the civilization in a way which makes sense. Now nothing makes sense, because we're electing a different president like in Israel, they just had like a third election in the last 4 years or something crazy like that. So anyways, we can discuss later in different discussions who shall be the king.
That purport that Keith, what's his name? Keith?
Bhakti Keith, yes. Bhakti Keith.
Bhakti Keith. I apologize for not remembering your name just now, even though I just literally heard it.
Yeah, I don't even know. Chase, yes.
Yeah.
Bhakti Keith.
That reminds me of the purport of, not purport, but it reminds me of the story from the Mahabharata. Bhishmadev, he basically didn't want to fight against Krishna, but he knew he had to do it because of his dharma. And so when he saw Krishna rushing at him with the wagon wheel, he's like, liberation, give me death. It's better to die by the hands of Krishna.
Yeah.
But then the conch shell blew, and the fight stopped.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's how it's kept saved. Oh.
Sort of, yeah. Well, that's like a special pastime there. I like there is a picture like that actually of Krishna.
Yes, that is my wallpaper.
And Bhishma is like, bring it on.
Yeah.
And Bhishma he's ready. It's like a nice example of a devotee in anger too. we kind of touched the anger pastimes with Danielle and the rest of the group, morning group today. So there's Hanuman, his birthday is coming up on the 6th of April. And Bhishmadev too, he was shooting arrows to Krishna, and Krishna was enjoying the arrows were piercing his body, but he felt it like flowers in his devotee. But still, it's pleasing to Krishna, and Krishna, it's so pleasing to him that in fact he comes all the way from the spiritual world to enjoy this mellow. Because there's some fighting in the spiritual world, like wrestling, but you know who there is like ready to kill each other. You cannot kill anyone there.
Yeah.
Like that.
How can anyone cause anyone else to be slain?
Yes. How are you, Daniela? Yes.
I wanted to ask you, so
I felt
Dear
that.
Govinda is always telling us when certain special auspicious days are, which I really appreciate. And now you were telling us also about the special days when the appearances and the disappearances and, you know, the remembrances. I cannot, for the life of me, find a good calendar. It seems like they're all conflicting. So can you break down for me what the deal is with the calendar? I know it's something about Vrindavan and
There are different calendars. I know that the calendar that most of the devotees follow, it's the International Society for Krishna Consciousness calendar, which is adjusted according to the moon phase. And I think that's what Hira Govinda follows. I'll ask him, and I can. I'm sure he will be glad to send to you the calendar.
And I use a calendar app on the Google Play Store, and I think it's the Sri Vaishnava. You know, it's not Gaudiya, it's just Sri Vaishnava, I believe. I could be mistaken.
Okay. Yeah, there are different applications too that like remind you. Things like that. But I think Hira Govinda, he just uses one of the calendars that they put online. I can ask him, and I'll be glad to send it to you.
I really appreciate that, because I didn't want to start the research project of why so many calendars and which calendar if somebody already knows. Yeah,
that's kind of the explanation, that in general the calendar goes according to Mayapur moonrise, sunrise, and then like in ISKCON they would usually adjust it to moonrise. Prabhupada, in generally speaking, from my study of the conversations, Prabhupada was not very keen of the adjustments, because then every place celebrates in different time. He wanted like one calendar for everyone, like just like we have a Gregorian calendar for practicality's sake. But most of the devotees follow the adjusted one. You know, for me, it's like kind of the important thing is to celebrate, right? Like you celebrate it today or tomorrow, or like better late or early than never. Hare Krishna. Yeah, I'm gonna ask him if you could, maybe if George can remind me or you on Facebook. Sometimes I'm.
Yeah. I'll send you a message. Thanks so much. I appreciate that.
Epic. Yeah. So generally we read the Nectar of Devotion, but I feel this is like, I like how everyone is like encouraged to share something after he reads the verse, like even something short. Hansadutta Prabhu, I met this one disciple of Prabhupada. He's now like 78, maybe. He joined very late. He joined like when he was 27. So now, he's probably like 80 actually. And German people live for long. And he was sharing that whenever they would do kirtan, Prabhupada always asked them to like do chanting, and every 10, 20 minutes to just push like a random person at the front and let him speak some philosophy to the crowd or to the audience in a class, in a temple or outside. It's so purifying. Like sometimes I find myself thinking like, oh, I'm speaking because I have to convince someone. I have to or brag about what I know, whatever. No, the speaking actually is essential for our own sake. Is essential so we get to know what do we understand from what we read, from what we hear, to, you know, like we like to say in Sattva, know where you at, right? To know where we are. You know, if we know where we are, we can take the path, the route to where we want to go. We might know where we want to go, but we don't know where we at, and then we end up going the other direction to LA through China. yeah, that's kind of what is inspiring for me in this meeting. Hare Krishna. Yeah, I kind of feel complete. If anyone would like to share or maybe read another verse, whatever you feel like. Otherwise, we can conclude the session and meet tomorrow morning and evening.
One more verse. I want one more verse.
One more verse.
Read, Daniel.
Verse.
Go for it.
You got to read, Ramachandra.
Okay.
You get it out of it.
I want one more verse, but I want your reading.
Yeah. And also, what did
Sitaram, Sitaram, Raghupati Pavana, Rajaram, Patita Pavana, Sitaram, 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 Sitaram.
Why'd you stop?
I don't know why I started, so I don't know why I stopped either. George gonna read us.
What am I reading?
Yeah, if you maybe I have a question connected to the reading. You have a favorite verse so far from the Bhagavad Gita?
Me? Or
Yes.
Chase?
You, George.
Yes.
Okay, so share it. Share it if you love it.
Dehinosmi yata dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dirasatra namuyati.
Yeah, we
So,
can read
as
that
the
one. Really nice verse.
Yeah, I mean, the translation is essentially, as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. I don't know the number of it, though. For to read the
213, I think.
213.
213 or 318?
No, I think it's.
I always transpose numbers.
Yeah, 13.
Hold on. 213. Okay. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death, neither for Bhisma, nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering, according to one's work in life. So Bhisma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have either spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So in either case, there was no cause for lamentation. Any man who has perfect knowledge of this constitution of the individual soul, the supersoul, and nature, both material and spiritual, is called a dhira, or a most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of bodies. The Mayavadi theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the supreme cleavable or changeable, against the principle of the supreme soul being unchangeable. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the supreme exist eternally, sanatana, and are called kshara. That is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, fragmental. But once liberated, he lives an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with the personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the supersoul who is present in each and every individual body and is known as the Paramatma, who is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in water, the reflections represent both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to the living entities, and the sun or the moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and the Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. They are not on the same level, as it will be apparent in the beginning of the 4th chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna, and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then their relationship of instructor and instructed becomes meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusory energy, Maya, then there is no need of one being the instructor and the other the instructed. Such instruction would be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior in position to the living entity, Arjuna, who is a forgotten soul deluded by Maya. Wow,
So
that's like
what
there's a
is
lot
going,
there.
George? What are you
I
experiencing?
mean, I think this, just like deep appreciation, specifically, just like in one line, any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the super soul, and nature, both material and spiritual, is called a Dhira or most sober man. Like to be able to distinguish matter from spirit is such like a huge boon in being able to make distinctions. I feel I'm having such deep appreciation that um, like so much of that struggle that comes from misidentifying with this body, even if like I don't have any realized knowledge of what I'm talking about, but I have some kind of idea that like I'm not this body. So like when I have sex desire, sometimes I'm like, wait, I'm like, if I can take advantage of that moment between action and reaction to respond by remembering this verse, by remembering Prabhupada and thinking that, um, you know, yeah, it's like to have that moment of response to be like, if I'm spirit soul, and at that point I'm like, so like whatever this field of activity that's causing me to have this desire for like, you know, this woman, let's say, I can think, wait, like I am not a man and she's not a woman. To that degree that I start thinking even a little bit in that light, it kind of starts cracking the illusion a little bit for me. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like it's so helpful to have this. It's almost like everything is like in this verse, you know, the idea of the soul, the super soul, material nature, spiritual nature, like so many huge points that I feel like are such fulcrums to kind of change my perspective in those moments where I'm like, oh, like I just think I'm a man. Like I don't have to think I'm a man. You know what I mean? Like, and then it's so helpful to kind of give myself a mental check. I think it's yeah, it's unlike anything else that I've read or any other understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you realizing that we're not the body, thanks to Prabhupada's association in his words. Like
Yeah,
Prabhupada,
or at least
he says how there is no difference between the transmitted media and the transmitter, and you're experiencing that. You're experiencing ease with the material desires that you feel that they're like overflowing you sometimes, but you remind yourself about the philosophy, and it gives you like a higher sense, higher perspective in your
yeah, at least some intellectual understanding. And I think like one of the most wonderful quotes I've ever heard from like a devotee that always comes back to me is a guy who was he was a married devotee and he was much older. They had been married for like 35 years, and he said like the most blissful part of his marriage is the moment he started seeing his wife as just another devotee, you know, as a devotee, and they were associating with each other as devotees rather than like with that, you know what I mean? And I think that's so nice, to think like a spirit soul, like not body parts and whatever, like
Bag of bones covered in skin. Yeah, we.
yeah, what Rukmini, yeah, Rukmini, what she was saying, yeah, it's amazing, yeah, exactly, just like devotees, so that's beautiful.
Perception that we connected to Krishna is like this long shot of Charlie Chaplin's quote. You know, you look at your life in a long shot, and then everything which is, you know, miserable, very silly and like joyful. So you're experiencing that. It's so nice to hear. Prabhupada mentions like 3 stages of desire and how it conquers the living entities by thinking, feeling, willing. And if we able, while it's in the thinking stage, if we able to counteract it or supply the thinking power, the philosophy, we don't have to get to the feeling. Feeling is already more difficult to bring back because you're like in an urge already to do that. It's still possible, but when you're on the willing stage, that's like, no, you're going for it. Like, no man, I'm hungry, leave me alone. Like the people.
Yeah.
I got in touch actually with Chase from the YouTube channel that I have, and he watched probably some of the books not bombs segments, and many people you saw Chase, they're like, no, leave me, I don't have time, I have to go, I have to, you know. So that's like part of the paradigm of the Bhagavad Gita. No, you don't have to do anything, man. Just be here and do what you really want to. You don't need anything to do what you really want to, you know. The soul is, like Prabhupada explains this, the soul is perfect in knowledge. I really liked how you highlighted this. Perfect knowledge of the constitutional position of the soul. It's so important to grasp it. Like it's like an intellectual liberation in a sense. Like, what? I'm full of knowledge and bliss. Like, wow, I don't need anything. I don't need to go to school. Yeah, it is. That's who we are. That's who we are. Yeah, what comes to me is like all these varieties of analogies and metaphors that Prabhupada uses. This is so literal and so real. Like I sort of highlighted in my mind this portion about the kshara, the God becomes cleavable if we not like eternal and if we're not eternal as much as God is eternal, then God existence becomes too not eternal. Because you know how if God divides himself to a non-eternal part and parcel, he loses himself, in other words. So it's like our eternity and God's eternity goes hand to hand. And actually, we still have the verse from last week here that Keith, he wrote on the wall. Was it from last week or Sunday? I think Sunday. He wrote this. Natu evam, it's the previous verse. Natu evam jatu nasam, nat vam neme jadripa, nat chayvana bhavishvama, sarveya vayam ataparam. You and Maya and all these kings are eternal. They're going to continue to be eternal, and everything is, everything is eternal forever.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's sort of like the continuation of the previous verse, that part of the purport for me. That's how I am experiencing this.
It's always a very comforting thought for me that we're eternal, because there's so much fear around not being eternal. Like my soul wants to be eternal. My thoughts are geared for eternality. Like everything in the fiber of my being says, we're not supposed to be crushed by time. And there's really not a lot else out there that's saying, hey, you are eternal, other than my intrinsic knowing that I am. Like I know that I am, but there's not a lot of evidence for that other than my knowing that I am.
We're working on it.
Yeah, well, it's great. It's great to have like Bhagavad Gita backing us up, you know, that God's saying it. That God's giving us comfort that we're not insane. That's not like, we're not just like in some sort of like mystery illusion that we are eternal. Like we really are. Everything is. everything's eternal. And that only makes sense to me. People, they want to start to split hairs about what has a soul and what doesn't have a soul and what's worthy of, freedom and liberation. And it really only makes sense. Like Bhagavad Gita is like a jigsaw puzzle that only makes sense. It doesn't matter how much of it you see, how much of it I see. It doesn't matter how much I see. Like I see, okay, this is a puzzle piece and it fits somewhere. Like this really makes sense. Even if I'm only getting like a couple of pieces here or there and kind of fitting them together, like I can tell that this is really going to make a picture at the end. Like this really is a complete philosophy. This is truth.
Yeah, you're experiencing the completeness of this material, because I sense that you already intuitively felt that, right? Like that you're eternal. Otherwise, life doesn't make any sense really too much. And now the Bhagavad Gita solidifies that with clear intention, philosophy, and
I experience you as being more spiritually connected by this, and that it seems like I experience you that you're connecting to internal power right now from this.
I've been reading a little bit of dialectic spiritualism, so it's really not me. It's really Prabhupada. It's really just him cracking on Western philosophy.
Oh, you're reading dialectic spiritualism now? Wow, that's epic.
Yeah, Dear Govinda sent it to me. He sent it to me, so I looked it up. And yeah, I want to start reading it like more formally, like maybe in a group setting or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we can do that. It's a really nice book. Like if you read that, this is a book about Prabhupada commenting on like 40, 50 philosophers that pretty much design how people think, like from Plato, Socrates, through Sigmund Freud, Nietzsche, to I think the last one is Skinner. And yeah, it's phenomenal. Like Prabhupada's view on that, he really like shows how we think, like how they design basically how we think. Like either that's Nietzsche and his views on religion and modernism, existence, like Camus. I think Camus is there too. I was personally a big fan of Camus. So, yeah, there are many nice points Prabhupada makes there to liberate our thinking pattern. Because I mean, we have belief systems, yes, but there's something even more deeply engraved, like our psychophysical nature of our philosophical grasp, and really fascinating. It's like the analysis of the philosophical evolution of humankind. It's like, whew. Really,
well, Dear Govinda has said before, and I firmly believe that we all have a philosophy that we're following, even if we don't know it.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's nice to see, okay, where did this come from? And like, when did people start believing this? Like, when was this idea introduced? Who was this person that introduced this idea? And does it really stand up to reality?
Yeah, and how to liberate ourselves from that idea either. And Prabhupada, he puts it on the plate of gold for us. It's beautiful. Yeah, well, maybe we can try it out tomorrow evening.
Please. Yeah.
Or tomorrow morning, if we don't have any ideas what to read in the morning. It's a nice book to read in the morning too, because it's quite like intense. So the mornings are kind of nice for that, to like grill the mind. Okay, thank you so much for everyone's association here. Chase, how was your first time here on the Sattva Zoom channel? You recommend to your friends?
Yeah, I couldn't ask for more.
Share and like, subscribe. Thank you so much for participating, and please come again.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Ramachandra.
Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Get ready for Ram Navami.